Hi, good evening. 9/11 is a complicated day, isn't it? I was just standing backstage with Senator Schumer, who I will introduce, and we were talking about it. And a year ago tonight, I don't know if you remember, Time and ServiceNation and a collection of other organizations sponsored a debate, not a debate actually, a conversation about national service with then Senator Obama and Senator McCain. And it was a little bit fraught. I mean, remember what the presidential campaign was like? And people hadn't gotten used to the idea yet of 9/11 being something a little different than purely a day of remembrance. We were having a presidential conversation on national service on the day of 9/11. And both of those men, one of whom is president today, were keen supporters of the idea of national service. It animated their entire life. And we felt that the whole point of having the conversation that night and doing it was, in fact, to honor what had happened on 9/11. We're going to talk a little bit about that bill that the president signed into law, making 9/11 a day of service and a day of remembrance. And I was thinking about it while listening to Gary talk, is that the two things are intertwined. They're intertwined in our history. The reason that we actually serve is often because of things that we remember. Service and remembrance are intertwined. We honor the past by doing something for the future, and that is what, to me, is so special about what has happened today. And I want to thank My Good Deed for championing this from the beginning and realizing that the two ideas are twinned. They're twinned in our American history. At Time, we have done 3 issues now, basically endorsing the idea of national service. And I actually believe national service is part of our DNA as Americans. The framers, who made some mistakes, knew that democracy was not an engine that goes of itself. It's a participatory democracy. People have to participate in America to make it work. And you know the expression, silver bullet, and you hear people say there's no silver bullet for health care, there's no silver bullet for the deficit. You know what? Service is a silver bullet. It's a silver bullet for all of those things. It's a silver bullet, and in a way, it's a silver bullet that has a triple bottom line because it helps the people who serve, it helps the people who receive it, and it helps the nation, and that's why it's so special. So I want to thank ServiceNation for putting this event together tonight. I want to thank My Good Deed, and I want to thank you all for participating and sharing in this because you are serving as well. We're all serving together. It is now my great pleasure to introduce the senior senator from the state of New York, Chuck Schumer, to those who know him. But one thing I want to mention that's very special about why he is here tonight. He has been a fantastic champion of 9/11, along with Senator Clinton, bringing billions of dollars to New York. But he also was the original sponsor of the proposition of the bill making 9/11 into a day of remembrance and a day of service. That was recently signed into law in the Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act, and I want to bring on the senior senator from the great state of New York and a great champion and eloquent speaker for service in America. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very kind. Thank you. Well, thank you, Rick, and it is truly an honor for me to be here before so many who have lost loved ones and live with that every day. To them, 9/11 was yesterday, and 9/11 was a lifetime ago. To be with those who serve in so many different ways, that is indeed the greatness of New York and America. And to be here and with who you'll hear from later, David Payne and Jay Winnick. They founded My Good Deed. It is with them we worked to create the law that made 9/11 a day of national service. So it's a privilege to be here, and I'm honored to be celebrating the first of many national days of service with so many members of the 9/11 community. For many of us in this room, September 11, 2001 is a day that changed the course of our lives. We'll never forget the horror that we felt as we worried about our missing loved ones and friends, our city, our country. Like many Americans, I'll remember where I was when the first plane hit. I was in the house gymnasium. Initially, I thought it was an accident. When the second plane crashed into the South Tower, I was horrified, immediately called home in New York, realizing that my daughter was attending high school within the shadow of the World Trade Center. My wife and I were in a state of panic. We took out the almanac to see how tall the Trade Center towers were and tried to figure out how far away they were from the high school. And when we couldn't find my daughter for 5 hours, the terror, the panic of not knowing where she was when all of the school had been successfully evacuated still haunts me to this day. Appropriately, she was in a sense doing service. They had shut down the elevators in the school. It was 9 stories, Stuyvesant High School. And there was an elderly teacher in her English class who couldn't get down the stairs very quickly, and my daughter waited and helped her down the stairs and got separated from the kids in the school. But our memory, of course, still with us, but not close, not even a scintilla, to those who lost a husband, a wife, a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, an uncle, an aunt, a close friend. We all know people who were lost. For me, it spanned New York. A guy I played high school with, a guy I played basketball with in high school, gone. A firefighter who was a close friend of mine from the family neighborhood, who I worked with on getting New Yorkers to actually donate blood. He was doing that before he lost his life. A businessman who had helped a young congressman on his way up, gone. Person after person, and we'll never forget, I don't think any of us, the walls, the signs, the little notes the day after. Have you seen this person, my son, my daughter, my mother, my sister? Have you seen them? And of course, most of the people on those signs never came back. And we remember them today and every day. I, for one, called on people to wear the flag. The day after 9/11, I put this flag on my lapel as a symbol. I wear it every day. I have worn it every day, and will, God willing, the rest of my life in remembrance of the terrible tragedy and the loss of life. So, we've lost loved ones and friends in a despicable act of terror. We'll never forget them. But we also witnessed an outpouring of concern and care that is unparalleled in American history. Some who were lost, many who were lost, the acts of bravery and help there that day of firefighters and EMT and police rushing into the towers, of people who were caught on the stairwells and just helped others get down. The story of Father Michael Judge, we all know it, after refusing to move to a safer area, killed by falling debris from the towers while giving the last rites to the fallen and wounded. That's the spirit of a New Yorker. The merchant, whose shoe store was on a path from the World Trade Center north, who stood outside, gave sneakers to women who were fleeing because they couldn't run or walk in their high heels. That's a New Yorker. Soon after the towers fell, concerns about possible blood shortages spread. Thousands of people stood online for hours, well into the night, to donate blood. There was no blood shortage as a result, and that's New York. No one sacrificed more of themselves that day than the men and women who ran to Ground Zero, pulled the survivors out of the rubble, unaware that they too could pay the ultimate price. Thousands of firefighters, police officers, and everyday citizens ran toward the tragedy, not away from it, and that was their job, their moral duty, to take care of people in need. Glenn Winnick, Jay's brother, was one of those heroes. Glenn was an associate member of the Jericho, Long Island Volunteer Fire Department, sacrificed his life at Ground Zero. He was a lawyer in his office, but he had his equipment there. The minute the planes hit, he just instinctively, as so many New Yorkers, as so many Americans did and do, rush to help people. Just this past week, Peter King and I were able to get the Justice Department to announce that Glenn will finally be posthumously awarded the 9/11 Medal of Valor. We must not forget that many more 9/11 first responders have lost their lives since. In the last 8 years, over 800 people who helped carry away victims and rubble from the scene have died, many of them after developing cancer and other respiratory illnesses from breathing in the toxic air around Ground Zero. John McNamara was a fighter from Engine Company 234 in my borough of Brooklyn in Crown Heights. He spent about 500 hours searching for victims, clearing away debris. He went down to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, and John died of colon cancer at age 44, leaving behind a wife and a young son. So we hear these stories as well. Countless charitable organizations have been formed to commemorate the lives lost on September 11th, to make sure the memories live on through us, and to help grieving friends and families. Dennis McKeon worked tirelessly to provide information and support services to over 1,500 9/11 families. Mary and Frank Fetchett started a scholarship program, the Bradley James Fetchett Memorial Foundation, in the memory of their son who died in the towers. Mary also founded Voices of September 11th, an organization devoted to addressing the needs of survivors and families of 9/11's victims. So these three are only three of the many heroes who have come together. The brothers, the family members, the sisters, holes in their heart that will never heal, but instead of cursing the darkness, lighting a candle by helping others. They define the legacy of 9/11 as well as those who were lost, the bravery and selflessness of them. Their narrative is about how our city and country rallied. It's what will be remembered in the history books. Ladies and gentlemen, when Alexis de Tocqueville, the French historian, visited America 200 years ago, he was awed by the spirit of volunteerism that permeated our country. It didn't happen in Europe, but already Americans were volunteering for their school, for their church, for their veterans organization, as they do today. The actions of thousands of volunteers on September 11th and in the days and months and years since prove that the spirit of America burns brightly and is alive and is well. So designating September 11th as a National Day of Service is fitting and appropriate. It will ensure that the outpour of service to others inspired by 9/11, both on that fateful day and since, will become a permanent fixture in American life. When we volunteer, we help others. We learn about others. I was at a soup kitchen today at the Church of the Apostle downtown, and you see so many different kinds of people who aren't as fortunate as you are. And it gives you a feeling of helping and of humbleness and of reaching out. We must continue to do this on 9/11 every year and many other days as well. And I was proud to carry the legislation in the Senate that made 9/11 a National Day of Service, as Rick mentioned, and hope and believe and pray that there will be many more National Days of Service. So I thank you again for having me tonight. And thank you to the countless people in this room who've committed themselves to bettering the lives of 9/11 survivors, families, and all New Yorkers and all Americans. We will all be touched forever by the heartbreaking event, tragedy of 9/11. Thank you.